Good morning, everyone. In the next couple of episodes, we are going to talk about our bread and butter. And to talk about our bread and butter, which is paraplanning and financial planning administration, we have our principal financial strategist here with me. That's none other than Usha. Welcome, Usha.
Hi, Jared.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing good.
That's great. And to start off with, I have a couple of questions from you, right?
Sure, Daddy.
And when it comes to financial planning and also paraplanning, and also in particularly SOAs, there are so many myths going around, and people are talking, and people are sometimes used by these myths, all the false information, right? So what do you think about that?
Right. I would say, okay, that's true. That's it's 100% true. One common myth being, people say, right, that paraplanners are just, they just do a document, right? They just write an SOA. In reality, that's not the case, right? So we are much more than just SOA writers, right? So we do quite a lot of things, I would say, right? From the research, from technical work, modeling, and putting together strategies and all those stuff. It's more than SOA writing, right? So that's one of the very common myths, and yeah.
Right. Now that's about paraplanners.
Yeah.
And paraplanners are not just SOA writers.
Yes,
that's what
exactly.
you're saying. And what do you think? People even have myths about SOAs in particular, right?
Yeah, on that note, I would say, people do think that SOAs need to be lengthy documents. It needs to be like massive, like 100-page documents for you to really tick all the compliance boxes. Again, I wouldn't agree, right? That's not the case. We can still meet the compliance requirement having a clear and precise short document, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I would like to highlight that as a myth.
Okay. So you talked about paraplanners, and then you talked about like paraplanning as a industry. We have these myths where people are thinking paraplanners are just
Document editors.
document editors, and then on the other hand, SOAs are must be lengthy documents, right?
Yes.
Which I have seen, even some countries they have one-page documents, isn't
Exactly.
it, for the financial
Yes.
advice?
Yeah, more developed countries, especially talking about UK, US context, right? The things have moved, right? So I think they don't have the lengthy documents as we do in Australia, right? So yeah, I think Australia is getting there, right? The things have transitioned, and we are slowly getting there. But those countries are ahead of us.
Doesn't mean Australia is an underdeveloped country.
No. I didn't mean it that way. I'm saying, yeah, we are going through the process.
Right.
We are going through the process.
Yes. So which means the financial planning process is actually underdeveloped.
I mean, I wouldn't say yes, but comparatively, yeah.
There are improvements to be done.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Let's talk about some challenges that you have in paraplanning when you're preparing SOAs and ROAs, and what are the key challenges that you need to highlight, and also as a senior paraplanner in the industry, how can you overcome them?
Right. So I would say one main challenge what we face is getting the right documentation, right? Again, from clients, from advisors. So that is, it's been a challenge for like a very long time, and it's really hard to overcome. We do understand, right? Everyone's not perfect. It's not like we can expect everything, right? There are bottlenecks, right? So then that actually affects us, right? So that impacts our process, our process as well, right? And it's important for us. We having all those information. It's important for us to do the right strategies, right modeling, and put together the right document. So that's important, and I think that's the main challenge what we face. So what we always try to do is, right, even at ABP, right, so we have a clear communication line, I would say, between the advisors, right? We try to get all the information what we can prior hand, right? and also we have this additional layer where we go and before we jump on to start drafting the SOA, right? So we have this process where we double check all this information with the advisor, right? And making sure everything is there and all the strategies are like pre-vetted and checked and all those additional check box. So that is something what we do, right? All those due diligence are done prior and before we even jump on to start doing and start drafting the SOA, because we don't want to be just drafting the whole SOA then realize we don't have this and all the information and go back and forth. That's waste of like all of our time, right? And I would say that's one biggest challenge what we are facing, and we are trying to do our best to overcome them. It's still hard. People do make mistakes, like we do miss as well, I would say, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes when we do our due diligence, we do miss as well. We'll admit that, right? But we're trying to do our best
There's
to minimize
human
those.
error as well,
Exactly.
isn't it?
Exactly.
But I have heard from many senior paraplanners that compliance is also one of the key and also the most challenging area of SOS. What do you think about that?
Yes. I wouldn't disagree. Yeah, producing a compliant SOA, it's challenging. At the same time, so the conflict is, SOA needs to be compliant. At the same time, it needs to be client friendly as well, right? To meet the compliance standard, you need to tick so and so, right? Whereas, to make it client friendly, you need to keep the document short and sweet, right? So that's kind of conflict. What we
Conflict of interest,
exactly, yes. But we try to, again, it's a right mix, right? So we need to make sure we have the right elements to get the compliance ticks. At the same time, right, we'll also make the document as client friendly as possible, right? So it can actually add value to the client as well.
Right. That's something new that you said, right? So it's a conflict of interest, I would say, conflict of regulators, where you need to have a well-regulated, compliant document, whereas as the person who are receiving the financial advice, the document should be very friendly,
Yes.
right? Because otherwise I wouldn't understand that.
Exactly.
I
Yes.
would not be able to implement it
Yes.
easily.
Yeah.
Right? I might need to consult my financial planner again to understand what's there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That's a very good point. Okay, so moving on. Now we talked about myths and the challenges. Let's talk about mistakes that paraplanners do. What are the most common mistakes? Maybe you can name 3 of them.
Yeah.
Which paraplanners makes day in day out.
Sure. I would say one common mistake is especially I wouldn't say especially with the juniors. I do see it with seniors as well, right? The lack of personalization. Right? Now again, this is an important factor to get the green ticks when it comes to compliance, right? You need to have that personalization in the document, right? Now this is something what we can easily miss, right? Because we have the templates, we have the right templates, we have strategy templates, we have SOP templates, and we have the right processes, and pretty much everything is there given for us, right? We always try to overuse it. I would say that's the right word, right? Whereas because of all these templates, we lack the personalization. We forget to bring that personalized element to it, right? And that affects the compliance side of things. At the same time, when it comes to overall client experience, also the advice is not tailored, right? So that's one common mistake, I would say. Then,
which means if I interrupt, it's like we are making templates to make it
easier. Yes.
Easier, right? And even financial planners tends to do it now because it's easy. And bigger financial planning firms also do it.
They have very strong processes and systems. Yes.
They have strong processes to make sure that it's in the templated way.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the customization lacks. Again, there's a little bit of a conflict.
Yes.
Right?
Again, it's all about the right mix, right? It's not like you have to. It's not like you completely get rid of the templates and 100% customize the document 100%, right?
Yeah.
It's you have the templates to help you.
Yeah.
Still, you can add some personal touches to the templated wordings, templated text, right? So that is what's missing in the whole process.
Whole process in the sense majority of
planners
do make that mistake.
Yes.
Right. Any other mistakes that you can highlight?
Other common mistakes I would say is like attention to detail, right? So this mainly I wouldn't really pick on any seniors on that, but especially the people who are entering the paraplanning industry, becoming paraplanners, grooming themselves to become attention details is something which I would actually ask them to focus on as well, right? Because this is something which I tell our guys also, right? We are in a SOA, we are telling a story, right? So from A to Z, your story needs to be consistent. You can't say one thing in page 1 and you can't say another thing in page 10.
It's a very nice way to
right?
Yes.
Yeah, so the story needs to flow through, right? So sometimes, again, this is again to do with templates and all. When we have all these templates, people try to easily miss things. Right, and they try to get carried away. Again, they want to speed up the process. Deadlines that also impact them, right? But paraplanners need to focus on it. Right, the consistency needs to be there, and they need to put more attention to detail, right, to make sure it's a nice story what they're trying to tell, and then it all flows through properly from page to page.
Right. Now, it's from one side it's a mistake, from one side it's actually one of the most commonly required talent that we have as paraplanners,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
So which means mistakes.
You need to master that.
Mistakes is something that we can learn from, and then the learning is that we need to build our attention to detail. You talked about attention to detail and also the other mistakes that paraplanners do make, which sums up today's episode, right? So we talked about myths, the common myths of SOAs, we talked about common myths of paraplanning as a whole, and then we talked about the challenges a paraplanner will face day in, day out, and also the mistakes that they do when they are doing their job. So in the next episode, we are talking about the tips and tricks and also the best practices. Ushan will share the best practices for you to understand how you can make your SOA the best one. See you in the next episode.